To humiliate her, the ex-husband invited her to his wedding. But when she arrived, his confidence froze in an instant. When he sent out the wedding invitation to his ex, he thought it would be the ultimate insult. He imagined her feeling bitter, jealous, and left in the dust as he moved on to greener pastures. But what happened next would change everything. As she stepped off the private jet, a vision in red, the entire ceremony came to a standstill. The bride's eyes widened, the groom's jaw dropped, and the guests couldn't help but stare. Who was this woman, and why was she about to upstage the entire wedding? Hello friends, welcome to Chetnal Stories. Today's tale is about a man who thought he could embarrass his ex-wife on the biggest day of his life, only to find himself completely upstaged. Clara Morgan, 34, exuded confidence and poise as she descended the steps of the private jet in her fiery red dress. Her raven black hair cascaded down her back like a waterfall, framing her heart-shaped face and piercing green eyes that seemed to sparkle with a hint of mischief. Clara's composure was unshaken, her stride purposeful and deliberate as she made her way towards the car that would take her to the event and the man who had once been her husband, but was now a stranger to her. 2 years earlier, she had been crushed by the end of her 6-year marriage to Daniel Harris. One spring afternoon, Daniel decided he had found someone better, a younger woman named Jessica Reed, 10 years Clara's junior. He didn't even soften the blow while informing her. He wanted the information to hurt Clara. Leaning against the kitchen counter, he told her plainly, "I am no longer interested in this marriage." "What have I done to warrant this?" Clara had asked him. "You've changed. I need someone who keeps things exciting," he had responded. Clara then pleaded with him not to go ahead with his decision, but he was adamant. The humiliation didn't stop with him walking out. Friends in their Boston suburb whispered. Acquaintances offered pitying smiles. And Jessica, the new lady, moved in with Daniel almost immediately, flaunting the life Clara once had. At first, Clara's world fell apart. She stopped caring about her appearance, avoided phone calls, and barely recognized herself. One day, her longtime friend Emily Carter sat her down one night and said, "This isn't your ending, Clara. This is your rebirth." That conversation lit a spark. Clara started going to the gym, eating better, and working with a tough trainer named Sophia. Within months, her body, confidence, and energy began to change. Thereafter, she enrolled in an executive marketing course she had put off for years, graduated at the top of her class, and accepted a high-paying job that allowed her to travel the world. On a business trip to Milan, she met Alexander Bennett, a man with a calm strength and a genuine interest in her. Alexander was a billionaire. They began seeing each other, and Alex treated her with respect, kindness, and deep appreciation. Life was good, until one Thursday morning an envelope arrived. Inside was a gold-embossed wedding invitation, written Daniel Harris and Jessica Reed. The handwritten note at the bottom read, "Thought you might want to see how it's done, right? You are invited to witness our wedding." It was clear that Daniel wanted to flaunt his new life in front of her. Clara considered throwing it away, but when Alex saw it, he smiled knowingly. "Then let's make sure the audience gets more than they bargained for," he said. A plan was set. They would go, not to cause a scene, but to arrive with such quiet confidence that the entire mood of the day shifted. Alex took Clara to a New York boutique. He ordered a sleek black tuxedo, while she found a red gown that shimmered in the light and hugged her figure perfectly. The day of the wedding, Alex picked her up in his private jet, and thereafter, they used his black Rolls-Royce Phantom to get to the venue of the wedding. When they arrived at the vineyard in Cape Cod, heads turned instantly. Guests whispered. Phones came out. The air seemed to pause. Inside, Daniel and Jessica were mingling with guests, unaware. But when Daniel saw Clara step in, shimmering under the chandelier lights, his expression froze. Jessica's smile faltered just enough for Clara to notice. Alex introduced himself and Clara warmly to the nearest group of guests. "Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Alexander Bennett, and this is my fiancée, Clara Morgan." The word fiancé rippled through the crowd. Guests stared. Daniel's jaw tightened. Jessica's eyes flicked between Clara and Alex, calculating. Clara kept her poise, exchanging polite words with Jessica. "You look beautiful and lovely. Congratulations to you and Daniel." She then turned away without waiting for a response. Every movement was deliberate, graceful, and unbothered. They stayed just long enough to greet familiar faces, their presence quietly dominating the room. When it was time to leave, they walked out slowly, Alex giving a courteous nod to the bride and groom. "We'll let you get back to your day. Best wishes." Daniel forced a thank you through gritted teeth, but Clara knew, without a single dramatic word, that she had rewritten the moment completely. She hadn't just survived. She had arrived. She had conquered. She had won. Outside, the cool autumn air wrapped around them. The Rolls-Royce waited at the curb for them. Before Clara stepped inside, she took one last look at the building. Through the wide glass windows, Daniel was still standing exactly where they had left him, motionless, staring at the empty space they had just vacated. Jessica stood at his side, speaking quickly, her once perfect smile completely gone. Clara slid into the leather seat, the door closing with a soft, satisfying click. Alex joined her, and as the car began to move, he reached for her hand. "You were magnificent," he said. She let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "No, we were." They didn't need to look back. The wedding might have been Daniel and Jessica's in name, but for those brief, charged moments, the entire room had belonged to them. 10 minutes into the drive, Clara's phone began buzzing. She and Alex exchanged a knowing glance. Neither needed to guess who it was. She didn't answer. The first call went unanswered, followed by a text. "Clara, can we talk, please?" Daniel wrote. Clara almost laughed. This was from the man who had once told her she would never find anyone better. She let the message sit unread for several minutes before locking her phone again. "You don't owe him anything," Alex said quietly, brushing his thumb over her hand. By the time they reached their penthouse, 2 more texts had arrived. "I shouldn't have invited you. That was a mistake. You didn't have to show up like that," Daniel wrote again. She could almost hear the tightness in his voice, see the clench in his jaw when things didn't go according to his script. The irony was delicious. He had wanted her there as a silent witness to his so-called happily ever after. Instead, she had walked in and stolen the scene without saying more than a few words. An hour later, Emily, her friend, called. "Clara, you absolute legend. My cousin was at that wedding. She said you and Alex looked like movie stars. Apparently Jessica's been in the restroom crying for half an hour." Clara sighed, not from guilt, but from the weight of understanding. "I didn't go there to hurt anyone. Emily, I just needed to remind myself that I'm not the woman they thought I was." "Oh, trust me," Emily chuckled. "You reminded them, and the whole guest list." That night, as Clara and Alex sat on the balcony, watching the city lights shimmer, another message came through. This time the message was longer. "I made a mistake letting you go. Seeing you today, I realized what I lost. If there's any part of you that still cares, I don't mind being there. I just want you back, Clara." She didn't bother finishing the sentence. She deleted the thread without hesitation, because his regret had nothing to do with love. It was about losing control, and Clara had learned long ago that control disguised as affection was something she would never need again. Alex glanced at her. "Paris next week?" he asked with a smile tugging at his lips. "Paris," she agreed. "And after that, wherever we feel like." She didn't need revenge. She didn't need closure. She had already won the moment she stepped into that room. Head high, with a man who loved her for exactly who she was, not for who he could shape her to be. Some battles aren't fought with shouting or anger. Some are won with a gown that glitters, a partner who beams with pride, and the quiet knowledge that you have outgrown the life you once thought you couldn't live without. Daniel would have to live with the image of her arrival forever, the moment his wedding stopped being about him and became the day he realized he was only a chapter in her story. Life has a way of circling back. Sometimes the very people who thought they buried you will have no choice but to watch you bloom. Clara's lesson was simple. Never waste energy proving yourself to someone who chose to walk away. Instead, invest that energy into becoming the best version of yourself. Success, self-respect, and genuine love will always speak louder than revenge. Thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit the notification button and subscribe to Chetnal's Stories. Until our next video, stay hopeful and kind.